what? That's my girl.
Hello, folks. I am so sorry for what you're about to hear. Happy almost Halloween. My name is Cindy, but tonight I'm Velma. I wanted to get in the spirit, complete with glasses and all. It's the darndest thing. My grandma, before I came here, was like, "Oh, honey, those glasses make you look like a lesbian." And I was like, "Oh, Grandma, you're about 5 years too late. Ayo!" So it's spooky season, and sometimes I like to read the tarot cards. It's kind of fun for my coworkers and whoever else wants them. And it's crazy the kind of responses you get when you read somebody's tarot cards. If you tell somebody to break up with their toxic ex-boyfriend, it's all, "Oh, I never really believed in all that, and it doesn't really resonate with me. I was just really curious." But if you tell them in a past life they were an ear of corn, they're all like, "It's so interesting you say that. I've always been fascinated by the color yellow when I ate corn for dinner last night." Anyways, but I suppose if I've learned anything in this life, it's that people are going to believe whatever they want. They think the earth is flat. So speaking of corn, in this area, if you're from Rochester, sometimes we like to go to our local corn maze for fun. Now, I've gone every year since I was little. I like to go to Long Acres. Maybe some of you have been there. It's pretty popular. But one year stands out among the rest as the craziest corn maze experience I've ever had. That year, I went with my family. I went with my mom, my sister, and my 2 grandparents. Now, me and my sister are relatively competitive, and we decided it'd be a good idea to be on separate teams and kind of race each other. Now, my sister gets my mom on her team, and I get my 2 grandparents. Now, I know this seems like a disadvantage, but my grandma's pretty competitive, and my grandfather is great at puzzles, so I thought, maybe this will go well. I wanted to get really pumped up about my team and think only the best thoughts. And my sister's trash talking me. She's like, "What is this, the geriatric unit?" And I'm like, "Says you, tiny legs, you can barely get down to the bus stop, let alone through a corn maze." But nonetheless, bada bing, bada boom, we're off. So, not 10 minutes go by, and my grandfather is already complaining about sharp abdominal pain. Now, my grandmother, kind of a worrier, bless her soul, has just read an article about appendicitis in the elderly. So she's convinced herself that my grandfather's appendix is about to burst. But before we can even react, Grandpa drops his pants, shuffles into the corn, and releases a rancid chocolatey hell stream straight from his elderly back door. Turns out Grandpa had sausage for lunch or something. At this point, my grandma goes, "Ooh!" I've never heard my grandma make that sound until now. But it scares my grandpa, who's turned away, and he says, "Kathy, don't do that. That scared me." And she's like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "I just got the Hershey squirts is all." Now, at this point, I forgot my prop tonight. I was going to squirt Hershey syrup across my face and body as kind of a performance art, but I've forgotten it. So I just want you to imagine it, it's there. And I was going to say, this is actually quite poetic. I'm a metaphor for myself, and this chocolate syrup is a metaphor for the mental trauma I've endured tonight. So as far as the story goes, you think this is the worst part, but this proceeds to happen about 3 more times. Grandpa gives the signal, and me and Grandma stand guard as he drops his pants and does his business. And eventually my sister finishes the maze, and we figure this out because in the distance we hear, "Hey, Sydney, you suck! Tiny legs beat you!" And at this point, any grasp my grandma still had on her sanity was gone. She was livid. And she goes, "I am never coming back to a corn maze again." And she just walked through the corn stalks out of the maze. And I thought to myself, why didn't we do this sooner? So I was going to wait for my grandpa, but the chocolate soft serve, it just kept coming. The images burned into my mind. I've never seen anything like it, and I couldn't eat ice cream for years. So eventually, I turn around, and I follow Grandma. And we decided that it's probably a good idea not to tell my mom or sister and to just pretend this never happened. And also, I found out years later that my grandma came across some other people in the maze while she was walking out, a Karen per se, a middle-aged old woman with an attitude. 2 kids, you know the deal. And she goes, "Excuse me, ma'am, you are setting a bad example for my children. they're going to think it's okay to cheat at the corn maze. And my grandma, she doesn't take any nonsense. Without a beat, apparently, she says, sometimes life isn't fair, honey. So after we get out of the maze, we meet up with my mom, and my grandpa eventually makes his way out. And my sister is over at the goat petting zoo nearby. This particular farm has a goat petting zoo with a water station, and she's washing off her shoes. And my mother goes, oh, your sister stepped in a puddle of goat manure in the corn maze.
Cuddle.
Now, there was chocolatey goat pebbles all over this farm. Not a single one was a puddle. I'm not convinced what she stepped in was goat manure. And to this day, I don't think my sister knows that she's washed her own grandfather's caca off of the Crocs she wore in a corn maze. And that is the end. Thank you so much for listening tonight.
That is Sydney, everybody. Talking to you about all kinds of things that only Sydney can talk to you about. Thank you very much. We are going to tune back to the music station.